Alright guys, it's day 2 of this series that I'm putting together. Getting more trees from the backyard. I got a buddy coming. We're gonna do some pruning, a little seminar. But I just got a lot of stuff to do. I figured I'd bust out the camera. I don't know when I'm gonna get all of this edited. I'm probably just gonna keep it as much raw as possible. So it is what it is, guys. I'm running out of time. Let's talk about form. Anytime in the future I'm discussing forms, we'll go ahead and kind of set that guideline up. So let me set the camera up over there and we'll get to work. All right, let's talk about this Dolly cart that I'm using. I'll show you what it is. Just a scrap piece of wood. You necessarily don't need it. If your pots are big enough, it's wide enough to support it. I just put that for the little 5-gallon buckets. It just locks in place here like a normal dolly. Yeah, that dolly you guys can get at any hardware store. I bought that at Menards. I think it's right underneath the $100 price point. I think it was a great solution. I'm dealing with, again, 15 gallons, 25 gallons, 10 gallons, anything smaller. So I highly recommend that. Let's talk about forms and growth theories and branches, since we are talking about pruning and shaping trees. This is the goal your first year with a fig tree. One single branch. The taller you get it, the fatter the lower trunk is. The concept is you got a fatter trunk, you got more energy running through it. More energy means more fruits, means bigger fruits, means sweeter fruits, right? And that's the idea behind that. So we got a single trunk. First year. This is Bass' favorite fig. About 6 feet. I've got them as big as 12 to 14 on the first year. Bass' favorite figs is known as a slower grower. It's a late variety. But that is year 1. Year 2, or form 2, is you start to go ahead and build scaffolding. You cut the first year roughly around 30 max. I don't really think you should cut it any higher than that. It really has to do with your storage, and we'll get to that a later time. But your distance from the bottom of the pot to the first scaffold is really important when you're trying to play Tetris when you store it. I find 28 is my magical number. On the later varieties, I tend to go a little bit shorter because I'm not going to be able to grow those out really big. There's no really sense in spending all that time and energy when I'm only going to get about a handful of fruits a year. Where something like this Smith, the bigger the pot, the bigger tree branches you can get, the more fruit you'll get. You guys know Smith is my absolute favorite. I have multiple Smiths. Second year tree, like I said, it produced 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scaffolds. Needs to be straightened out. You can see it is going We'll straighten this out, trim this up for video today so you can see how to straighten out a tree that's kind of crooked. I think that's going to be a great video. This is the third form or third year tree. You have the main trunk, multiple scaffolds coming up. These scaffolds have now produced branches spreading out from the tips. And that's what I would like to call final form. What you gotta picture, guys, is when this tree is 10 years old, what is it gonna look like? I don't know if you guys can see, it sucks, but there's 4 branches here. Our goal is to leave 2 of those. 10 years from now, all we want is a Y shape, really fat. Everything else will always be trimmed, but we're consistently, every year, just gonna prune back down to this Y shape. From that Y shape, it's gonna shoot branches. Those little branches are gonna shoot out and have clusters of fruit. That's the idea and that's the hope. But that's a third year improved Celeste in its final form for me. I got it wire trained. This branch was drooping too much. I'm very anal, as you can see. I want my trees shaped at least the best I can. But that is form 3. So let's just go through the 3 forms and how you prune them at the end of the season. Tape measure. .30-inch mark. Just gonna use one of these branch saws. Bass favorite figs. Maybe 4 cuttings. When you use the branch saw, it's a little rough, so I just take an X-Acto knife and kind of just clean it up. Okay, once I cut it, I'm going to let it cauterize, calcify. I think it's cauterize, right? Like get it a little bit sealed up, like the wound will get scabby up there. But then we will seal it. This year we're using the standard wood glue. In the past, I've tried a whole bunch of other things. They all work. This I found this year is night and day, a lot easier. And when I seal them, I will show you some options you can do with this. But yeah, that is pretty easy. This is the second year tree in the second form. It's a Smith, like I said. Okay, this is what's really rough. I know you guys are probably like, Homer, you're being so anal. It looks pretty straight to me. It's a little straight. I'm just gonna make some minor adjustments. You guys seen me use these before. I'm notorious for the zip ties, floral wire, wrap it, and zip tie. Okay, this is kind of where it's kind of cool. You use a little science. We're using physics here, leveraging and torque, all of that stuff. If I want to support a branch trunk, I'm gonna support it in the bottom. if I want to bend the trunk, I'm going to take it from the top at the easiest point and pull it, right? So that's what I was kind of doing when I was trying to bend it, figuring out the bending points of the trunk. If there was still any, it's pretty thick. It's probably the size of 3 Sharpie markers. I know a video never gets to really the size of the trees. It's a lot straighter. For me, I'm happy with it. Let's go ahead and handle these branches that developed on its second year. You guys would probably be like, Homer, it looks great, just leave it like that. You don't want your branches to keep going so tall. You want to start the second scaffolding. And the idea, the concept is usually around 12 inches, 14 inches max. I prefer to be around the 12-inch to 10-inch. I learned from experience that a 14-inch branch just looks a little bit leggy, in my opinion. So again, highest point. "12-inch mark." Like I said, it's not about the inches exactly. It's about where the nodes are gonna grow to give us the shape that we want. So that's where the variance in the inches come in play. Guys, I was looking at the tree and I thought I wanted to cut one of those branches off, but I don't think I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna sit on it, wait, and see if that's something I really want to do, because I'm okay with it the way it looks. Okay, I found the issue that was bothering me. It's this branch. This branch is too close to this branch, but if I was to remove it, this side of the tree would look a little naked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire train it and pull it that way. I don't know if you guys can see this on camera. I love it when you figure things out. Sometimes when you're trying to turn a branch. Imagine a clock. You're going from a 6 o'clock to trying to turn it to a 4 o'clock. Sometimes it's better to just use one of the other branches or other scaffolds to give you the leverage you need to move it. Just be careful when you do this. Sometimes the branch can look twisted. You always want to make sure it looks natural. Try to make a habit of doing your wire training before you cut the branches. For instance, this one is kind of curved up after I did the wire training. In a future video, I'll show you how you can straighten that little bend that I'm touching there to straighten out, just using some bamboo stakes or sticks. All right, I'm happy with it. Little anal, I know, but it looks really good. That's probably the front of the tree. Improved Celeste, going on its 4th year. Final form. This is back in the day when I was still pinching trees and I didn't know anything. So that's why you get this kind of, it's cool. It's a cool shape. That's why I'm keeping it the way it is. But it's not the preferred growing method for me anymore. But plenty of scaffolding going on. Lots of branches growing inside the center trunk. But we're just gonna clean it up and get it to its final form. So let's go ahead and start cutting. Again, I'm just gonna do the easy cuts, which is the ones that are growing inside the center of the trunk, towards the center of the trunk. Here's a branch that is very funky. It looks like just a big E. Normally I want a Y. I kind of have a Y, but just not at the plane. Because this one right here is growing towards the center. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna leave this one for now and see what happens next year. If I get another node or branch to pop out, then I can cut it at that time. But for now, I'm just gonna get rid of this little E part, like so. Sometimes, guys, the Y that we're looking for isn't very noticeable. This back branch over here, again, is like the trident. I want to get rid of this so I get the Y. Guys, sometimes the Y, look at this, I'm talking about this branch right here. Sometimes the Y isn't going to be as thick and strong as as the rest of the tree. We just need time for it to catch up to that point. So I'm gonna always plan on my cuts being what the tree is gonna look like in the future. This back branch. This back branch over here is freaking gnarly. Just trying to make a concept where I'm trying to figure out where to cut it. trees in about an hour here. But this is the improved Celeste final form. I'm happy with it. A lot of the branches are just little pencils right now. I just need to see what happens in the future. But for the most part, I'm happy with it, and maybe next year it'll look completely different. Just things just grow the way Mother Nature wants it to grow. I got one more thing to show you, and then this video is gonna be done. Okay, I got something. This winter, if you guys know me, I'm really into soil health, microbes, and all of that stuff. So I am going down the journey I'm gonna make my own worm castings. I'm gonna try to. I'm gonna grow the best vermicompost. If you guys know anything about fertilizing, vermicompost is the epitome or the pinnacle of the best fertilizer you can get out there. You can really control the quality of it. I've been spending the last 2 months researching, learning as much as I can, and it is time. So, future video, I'll show you how I'm gonna vermicompost. But for now, my buddy's gonna be here in a little bit. We're gonna prune more trees. So peace, I love you guys, and stay tuned for the next video in this series of putting all of this stuff away.